What's up guys, it's the Daedric Warrior and welcome back to another Skyrim build. In today's build we have the Barbarian. The Barbarian's class takes inspiration from the Barbarian class in Oblivion. The Barbarian is a female Nord that fights for honour and integrity for the people of Skyrim. She has a large hatred for the Imperials and an even larger hatred for the Thalmor. She also fights for the honour of the Stormcloaks, Ysgramor and Hircine. She will embrace the power of the Dragonborn and make the Imperials fear the wrath of Hircine as the axe of Ysgramor falls upon the heads of the Imperials. So without further ado, let's get into the build. So first up we have the race. For the race I picked Nord, mainly because they have a 25 plus skill to two-handed and a 20 plus skill to light armour. These two skills are a must have for the Barbarian build. I also feel that Nords give out that sort of brutish vibe of violence and honour. And also because the race does fit in with the backstory, which we'll get into very soon. If you really don't want to play as a Nord, you can play as an Orc or an Imperial, but you would have to justify the backstory to that specific race. Next up we have the Standing Stones. For lower levels you will want to use the Warrior Stone, as it grants players a 20% faster increase for all combat skills, and you'll be using light armour and two-handed, which are both combat skills. For later levels you will be using the Lordstone. The Lordstone gives the player 50 points in damage resistance and a 25% increase to magic resistance. Next up we have the stats. For this build I will put 60% of my points into health and 40% into stamina. The reason you need 60% health is because you're going to be running in at the front lines, taking tons of blows to the face, and 40% stamina to charge down the ranks of the Imperials. Now let's get into the backstory. The Barbarian is a Nord that grew up in the frozen kingdom of Bruma. Her father was the town blacksmith and her mother was a priestess of Talos. One day the smith and the priestess decided to settle down in a house in Bruma, and not too long after, the Barbarian was born. At first they lived a very humble and peaceful life, until the Great War came. Her father was sent to fight in the front lines, and her mother was sent to treat the wounded. Once the ash of the Great War settled, her father returned home and so did her mother. Because her mother was previously a priestess of Talos, the Thalmor Justicars banned her from the chapel, but her mother was resilient. Every day in the town centre she would preach about how the Imperials had abandoned their gods. A lot of the Nords around Bruma would often rally along her side. One day the Barbarian's mother didn't return home. That evening her father had told her how the Justicars had brutally executed her in the town square. The Barbarian was to grow up into a priestess of Kinnereth, but instead her father showed her how to fashion weapons and armour out of iron and steel. Now it had nearly been 30 years since the Great War took place. As the Barbarian was returning home from working at the smiths, in the corner of her eye she saw her house being searched by Thalmor Justicars. She quickly dashed over to her house to see what was happening. She looked through the lock on her door and she heard Thalmor agents accusing her father of Talos worship. Her father denied all accusations of Talos worship, but the Thalmor agents just laughed. So right then and there, a Thalmor agent kicked her father to the floor and beheaded him. She quickly opened the door to see what happened, but all she saw was her father's head roll out the front door. In a blind rage, she picked up her father's sword and beheaded one of the Justicars. She then saw an elven greatsword come chopping towards her head. She then swiftly dodged the elven greatsword and brought her father's sword up into the chest of the Justicar. Then 3 more Justicars came downstairs. She knew she couldn't defeat all of them, so she threw her father's sword to the ground and dashed out of Bruma, and she headed north to Skyrim, the land of her people. As she was ascending over the Gerald Mountains, she heard sounds of a distant battle. As she peered over the cliffside of the mountain, she saw Ulfric Stormcloak, the true High King of Skyrim, fighting alongside his Stormcloaks. Her father had told her stories of his honour in battle at the Battle of the Red Ring. As she jumped down from the cliffside to help, Ulfric had ordered his men to stand down. Later that day the Barbarian and the Stormcloak rebels were carted away to Helgen for their execution. But just as she was about to be executed, a dragon appeared. And in the confusion she managed to escape Helgen with the Stormcloak companion. After escaping Helgen she will head to Windhelm to join up with the Stormcloaks. Throughout her time being a Stormcloak she will find out that she is indeed Dragonborn and will complete the main quest. She will also join up with the companions to get her werewolf abilities. She will complete the Dawnguard main quest for the Dawnguard and the Dragonborn DLC main quest as well. She will also complete Hircine's Daedric Quest in order to get the Saviour side. So overall the quests and factions she will be taking place in is the main quest, the Civil War for the Stormcloaks, the Companions, the Dragonborn main quest, the Dawnguard main quest for the Dawnguard, and we'll complete the Daedric artifact quest for Hircine. So I hope you guys get the general gist of the build. Now I'm going to go in depth on the primary skills for the build and the secondary skills for the build. So first up we have the primary skills. The primary skills consist of two-handed and light armor. Two-handed is great for this build, as with this build you're going to be killing a lot of Imperials. Most Imperials do use swords and shields, and the two-handed battle axe is perfect for breaking past the defense of an Imperial shield wall. And finally for the primary skills we have light armor. Light armor may not provide the best defense, but it sure as hell will perform the best charge attacks with a two-handed battle axe. Next up we have the secondary skills. The secondary skills consist of block and smithing. Block is great against enemies that are using shields, because when you block an enemy using a shield, they will stagger and you can go in for the kill with your two-handed battle axe. Smithing is great for two reasons. Number one, because it fits in well with the backstory, and number two, because as you may not be using smithing as much as you would have hoped to, because a lot of the weapons and armour I'm wearing are very late game armour types, such as the Saviour's Hide, Wuuthrad and the Stormcloak Officer armour. And that's why smithing is a very good skill to have on you. Next up we have the followers. So for the followers you have two choices. Number one, a melee character like Stenvar or Vilkas, who can wade into combat at your side, whereas on the other hand you have Belrand, who offers more versatility. I will leave the locations for these followers in the description if you are looking for their locations. And now finally we have weapons and armour. So first up we have the weapons. You will be wielding the Axe of Ysgrim or Wuuthrad, which can be obtained by completing the Companion's main questline. Wuuthrad is a two-handed battle axe with an added on effect which makes it easier to kill any race of elf. Next up we have the armour or apparel. First up for the chest piece we have the Saviour's Hide. The Saviour's Hide can be obtained in the Daedric Quest Ill Met by Moonlight. Throughout this quest you need to follow Hircine's bidding, and in order to obtain the chest piece you need to kill and skin Sinding. In the description I have left a tutorial on how to start the Ill Met by Moonlight Daedric Quest. Next up for the boots, gauntlets and helm we have the Stormcloak Officer armour, which can be obtained through the Stormcloak Questline. And that's it guys, all you need to know about the Barbarian build. I'd like to know what your thoughts on this build are in the comments, and you can also suggest build ideas, because if they are good enough I will most likely use the build in a video, and then I will shout you out in that video. So there will be a video the day after this video, basically on how to make the how to build this character, and that I mainly mean like the facial structure, the body, how to make it look like the way it is. It won't look like my character here, but hopefully something similar. But I hope you guys really did enjoy this video. If you did, remember to leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you guys in the next Skyrim build. Peace.
Everyone stand down. That's an order. Stand down!